Hi, I'm James Patrick of Big Picture. On Monday, August the 5th, all markets crashed in a very unprecedented way. I spoke with David Webb about this to get his impressions of the situation.
2 days ago, the Japanese stock market fell by 12%, which is one of the biggest drops in history. And today, uh, it rebounded 10%. So it's not back to the where it was 2 days ago, but this is epic volatility. Um, and you know, 2 days ago when the Nikkei dropped like this, it was observable that all markets were down that day. The Nikkei was down the most, but all segments of the U.S. stock market were down. Now, very notably, we really need to draw attention to this to understand how shocking this is and unprecedented it is. Um, there was no rotation in the financial markets. In other words, funds were not taken from what was sold and then flowed into some other area of the financial markets. In the past, when there was a very scary crisis and drop in the market, the dollar would soar and bond yields would fall sharply because the money from selling everything else was going to pay down debt. And the debt globally is uh, denominated in US dollars. So this would cause a spike in the dollar. The need to reduce leverage would cause a spike in the dollar. I think this is the first time we are not seeing that. It's not the dollar isn't falling; it just isn't spiking the way it would when you have a sell-off in everything. And I think people um, uh, casual observers of the market and even quite sophisticated observers of the market would have to take note of this and realize how shocking this is. Um, Now, this we started getting glimpses of this beginning in the middle of July. So there have been other days where this was observable as well. No rotation in the market. Now, what that means is, hmm, what it means is that the 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 liquidity that is generated by the sales on a vast scale is simply disappearing. It's not rotating into anything else. It is vanishing. Now, this, I believe, is unprecedented. The reverse of it is not unprecedented. The reverse of it was the beginning of the everything bubble. The reverse of it was something that I saw in March of 2003. And that is where we had an exogenous source of funds that flowed into everything. There, prior to March of 2003, the market was a relatively closed system. There was the operation of the Fed in through open market operations, but one would still see rotation. In other words, if semiconductor stocks were being bought, industrial stocks were being sold. There was rotation within the equity market, or if equities were being sold across the board, bond yields were falling, meaning all that money was flowing into bonds. Um, and in a crisis, the dollar would go up because of the demand for dollars to pay down debt. But beginning just over 20 years ago, something changed in the financial system where there was this exogenous source of an epic amount of money flowing into all segments of the financial system. 5 years later, this came to be called quantitative easing. It actually began in 2003. The historic thing that is happening right now is the reverse of that. It is the same exogenous force withdrawing liquidity on a massive global scale that is simply vanishing. Now, the significance of this is that a decision has been made to do that.
And who is that? Who and what is this exogenous force?
Well, I believe it has to be the people who control the central banks globally. So it is what people must understand, finally wake up to, is that much of this system is completely dark to them. It's not observable. It is covert, these actions in the markets, to wake up to that reality. And that this is, if you are attempting to navigate something like this, good luck to you, because you are like a man who is blindfolded trying to box someone who can see you fully, just punch you in the face at will. So they can withdraw this liquidity. They can also reverse that, as we're seeing with a 10% up day on the Nikkei. So you really would have to be. I mean, I've navigated things like this before. It is not easy to do. I would,
You had a fund for many years where you tracked the Federal Reserve's manipulation of the markets, and so this is really your kind of expertise, isn't it?
well, at that point, I could see uh, the data that reflected the open market operations of the Fed. So I could see when they were accelerating or decelerating money growth. But this massive exogenous um, force in the markets, that is not something I would attempt to navigate, quite simply. You just get out. You just get out. I think this is an aspect we should also mark. We should also note this was beginning in the middle of July 2024, and we have an escalating war in Europe and an escalating war in the Middle East. We are in a global hybrid war. We have promises. They are working to foment civil war in the United States. This is full spectrum. We are in a global hybrid war, and this decision, I will call it. It is a decision that was made to begin disappearing liquidity from the global financial system on an epic scale. This is an aspect of the global hybrid war we're in, and it is being run by the people that control the central banks. That is the important thing for people to understand.
So markets can just be created out of nothing, and money can just be pumped in and pumped out. It's not real market
Yes,
forces.
it's not real market forces, and we've seen that on the way up. People. It's taken 20 years, but people now understand that this massive bubble was ginned up in this way with this exogenous source of created money. The important thing for people to wake up to right now is that has begun to be used in reverse now. So the bubble was created, and now a decision has been made to begin imploding the bubble. Now, it won't happen all at once, but we're going to have some scary days in the months ahead.
What does this teach us about what could be coming forward in the next months and year or two?
I think we are likely to have a very scary October just prior to the US elections. Will be part of the general atmosphere of chaos. Um, so there's a psychological aspect. People will be very frightened. And that tends to shut down the ability to think and discuss. Um, and I believe it is leading toward the insolvencies on a large scale. Um, and of course, all the work we've done relating to severing property rights to financial assets, when does that matter? It matters when you have massive insolvencies. So that process will be unfolding, I believe, in the
So what
year
we've been
ahead.
seeing over the last 48 hours of just the withdrawal of money from the system and coming out of assets, not going in into other areas. This this indicates what this tool is now been used, and it can be used further to crush markets if they'd like that. If someone wants that.
Well, I think it's very significant that as I say, a decision was made. This didn't happen by accident. This is not this is not a whoops moment that oh, how could this have happened? This is very deliberate, and it is not just yesterday. This also began happening in July on individual days. So it's there is now some repetition in this. Um, so it's not a one-off. The evidence of this is accumulating.
And I guess to conclude, how does this tie in with the great taking scenario?
Well, this this relates to the Great Taking in demonstrating that the everything bubble was created deliberately in this way through this. It's planned. It's an exogenous force that is used to create the bubble, and the same force, the same power, is used to demolish the bubble. And that's the significance of this: is a decision has been made to begin that process. That will then lead to large scale insolvencies. And given the severing of property rights, um, that is uh, when called the Great Taking will become operational. Um, and but people must understand it's really not about money. It's not about your investments. This is part of a global war strategy against populations. So when I when I refer to the Great Taking, I'm not just talking about your IRA. I'm talking about everything. It's about subjugation.
Okay, great. Well, we're working on this film on the great taking and watching all this unfold. And thank you for your expertise
Well, how to on how to stop
on how
the
to
Great
stop the great
Taking.
taking. Yeah. So yeah, people can really do something on the state level to strike some of these problematic lines from the UCC code to restore property rights. So yeah,
Well, I think it's about more than that because it's about making it real for people that they are not powerless. That's the most important thing. For people to begin to realize who their enemy is and to be explicit, that is the banking powers that control all of this, that are behind this. Um, these are the authors of all the myriad threats against them in this hybrid war. And so, this reversal of the Uniform Commercial Code, restoring property rights to people, um, this is rightly focused in that it is pointing at the banking interests and it makes it very clear that they have had their way against the interests of the public and humanity, and that by pushing back against this, which we absolutely can do, these actions in the states, what they do is they make it real for people that this really is the situation, that um, property rights were subverted in this way. So they see it with bills being brought. They see it when they actually look at the code, how obvious it is, how this was subverted. Then they see the reaction of the banking lobby, that there is a very serious focus on the part of the banking lobby to attempt to um, refute this. And then, fourthly, we can see that they cannot refute it. They can only lie about this and use threats against the states, the threat of withdrawal of financial services, to really intimidate the states into falling back into line. So it's very important because it people will come to see that they are not powerless. They will understand who their enemy really is, and they will understand that they're being threatened, and they will have to decide if they um, like being threatened, or if they are going to push back, and they can push back because just these threats, the threat in Tennessee to withdraw financial services from the state, that alone is criminal. That can be prosecuted under RICO laws as a criminal threat. So we do have means to fight this.
Absolutely. You can read David's book at thegreattaking.com and see the film being made at BIGPICTURE.WATCH. And thank you for summarizing this for us here.
Thank you, James.
Okay.
Thanks for all your
Thank
work.
you. Thank you.